The difference between struggling and growth, I believe fundamentally it's identity. It's how much do you see yourself as the chief entrepreneur in your firm versus how much do you see the business side as a necessary evil to support your life as a lawyer who happens to own a law firm.
Hey everyone, Bo Royal here, co-founder and CEO of Pareto Legal, a marketing agency that helps injury lawyers increase their profits with digital strategy, online advertising, and analytics. You're listening to the Pareto Legal Podcast, where we feature world-class attorneys, entrepreneurs, and legal experts. And today I'm joined by Charley Mann, founder of Law Firm Alchemy and one of the most sought-after law firm coaches in the country. Charley is known for helping growth-minded law firm owners break through plateaus by building better teams, systems, and marketing strategies. He's worked with hundreds of firms to turn chaos into clarity, and his insights on leadership, profitability, and personal growth are second to none. In today's episode, we're diving into why so many law firm owners get stuck, the biggest mindset shifts that unlock real growth, and how to build a law firm that thrives without burning you out. So have you seen the challenges, though, over the last few years evolve with, the dawn of AI, just more adoption into digital marketing, things of that nature? Like how have the problems evolved, would you say, over the last 5 years?
Yeah. Okay. And that's a good one. Like over the last 5 years, right? Because that pins us right towards pandemic hits. Everyone is into this forced rate of adoption of rapid technological improvement. If you were still trying to be a papered office and you hadn't previously moved to a paperless solution, it was, I guess, grab the filing cabinets and take them home with you because you don't know when you're going to be back into your office. And there's a great Warren Buffett quote. I'm gonna butcher it a little bit, but it's basically, you don't know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. And the tide went out in a pretty significant way in 2020. And you saw who had been sort of forcing it along. I'm still doing things the old-fashioned way. I have paper files. My quote-unquote CRM is like the phone numbers that I've written down and the business cards that I keep. And you saw the firms that had already taken the time to install a proper CRM system, who had things dialed in. They had their software suite taken care of. They were paperless, or at least they had backups on the cloud. And all of this technology has done wonders for us in that it's very easy to access. People take their firms on the road with them now, but that's also the pain point is now it's like, oh, I have access to this at all times. If I have this darn cell phone in my pocket that has access to my case management system on it, it's like Frodo carrying the One Ring and it's whispering to him because it wants your attention so badly, and the firm demands that attention, and you don't have that same separation. And then you pop open social media and you look at your buddy who's doing something really cool with, they're showing up at one of these conferences and they're finding out, oh my God, I'm going to do an AI attendant intake. And now you're going, oh shoot, am I already behind on that? But at the same time, that's also an opportunity, right? So that becomes now this cool thing that you can plug into your law firm. I'm a big believer, Bo, that all of it is a double-edged sword, that it's really cool to have these improvements. I mean, if we look back about 20 years ago, so 2005, shortly before the iPhone, and at that point, people were texting regularly. Like there were people who would be texting folks to stay in touch with them. And that was considered cutting edge technology, whether it was texting to stay in touch with a referral source, which would be like, whoa, wow, we're texting each other. We must really know each other. Or it was, texting with a client, which was extremely rare. It was this powerful leverage of technology. And it seemed like with most of these things, that was as good as it was going to get. But of course, now all of a sudden, because we had texting, oh wait, clients might be able to text me if I'm giving out my phone number. And now what do I do? What's the proper etiquette when you're handling that sort of thing? And obviously email before that had the same, call it an issue. These days, we have more evolved versions of that where you have technologies, case status, HONA, et cetera, where some of that text messaging can be harnessed and properly distributed out to clients via their portal that keeps them updated on the case, which is great because then maybe you're not actually getting those extra phone calls. You're not getting those extra text messages back. But boy, oh boy, it just means, do I need to add that to my tech stack? It is so much to handle. Just like in real life, I was talking, my wife and I were having this conversation recently about the simplicity of like growing up in the 90s and how you would bike to a friend's house and like knock on the door and, hey, can Bo come out and play? Is Bo even here? Or you might call up and I'd say, hi, this is Charlie. I'm calling for Bo. Is he available right now? And none of that exists. Instead, we're paying for smartphones, we're paying for streaming services, we're paying for our music, we're paying for all these other things and all this stuff that has to be accommodated for. I mean, it doesn't have to be. But if you feel like you want to participate in some things of interest within society, there's just a lot of stuff demanding the attention. I mean, don't even get me started on youth sports, Bo. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. And it's like, I don't know how we went from one casual Saturday morning practice plus game to 3 practices a week plus 2 games on the weekend just for one sport for one kid. Like life exploded and it's all additive. Nothing's being taken away.
So it sounds like there's a lot to unpackage from that awesome response. So it seems like part of the challenge in the last 5 years has been there's been so much advancement and with that more distraction, but it's not a viable replacement for the fundamentals, right? And in a business context, and more specifically a law firm context, it's very easy to get wrapped up in, oh, this hot new tool, this new ad type, I'm seeing ABC law firm do this, do that. That is not a replacement for doing the fundamentals well in your law firm. So let's talk about those fundamentals. What do you see as some of the core elements of a successful practice? And some of these are very, clear, but it's important to reiterate this because truly the best firms today are the ones that are doing those fundamentals extremely well, continuing to prioritize them. And yeah, they might have all the cool stuff on top of that, but it's enabling them to scale in a way that is sustainable, if you will.
Yeah, I like to make it a fitness comparison where when you see people who are fairly fit, like admirably fit, it's usually not because they figured out some special workout hack and, they've got this extra level of like scientifically dieted in and everything like that, unless you're up at like the upper echelons. Instead, people who are admirably fit, especially as we age up and we continue to see people kind of drop off the admirably fit bus, people who stay that way are the folks who have the habit of it, right? They're just like, I don't know, I show up, I do some gym stuff, I stay relatively active, I actually play with my kids, I get on a bike sometimes, I explore nature. Like that's where it ends up coming from. And the same thing is true for law firms. It's a simple set of rhythms. So like when I'm working with a firm, some of the basic rhythms that I want to know is what are their marketing cadences? And I use the word cadence a lot. How often are you pressing publish? And what are you doing to get better at that? So using the fitness analogy, if we're talking about resistance training, weightlifting, there's the idea, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, progressive overload, which is over time, we're either adding more repetitions or we're adding higher weights into it to continually try and get better. But we might still be doing the same lifts and still seeing gains and still seeing improvements. So let's imagine we're one of the law firms right now that's on YouTube, that's trying to crack through on YouTube. Are you keeping the habit of pressing publish every single week? Are you trying to dial in your hook? Are you trying to dial in your thumbnail? Are you trying to dial in the video topic ahead of time? Or is it just kind of sloppy activity? So marketing cadence, staying consistent with it, with whatever your role is as the firm owner, touching base with referral sources regularly. That's huge. I mean, my gosh, if you really want to uncomplicate things, I tell firms that I work with, like, to uncomplicate your life, find a company to handle the digital marketing for you and you focus on all of the offline stuff. I mean, I remember when the digital marketing was really fun to DIY. Like, back in the offsite blogs day, and you could just hammer out 250 words of whatever you wanted. It's not the case anymore. It's so much more complicated. And then let's say we're on our marketing cadence. Now we also need an operational and leadership cadence. So what does it look like in terms of frequency of meeting with your team and how you set action items, come in with an agenda and set action items from that agenda and make sure that things are moving forward on your operations? Are you, the way that I often put it is a law firm's job is not to build inventory. A law firm's job is to get the legal work done for the client. Because there are some firms that will just let cases sit on shelves. And some of them will say, it ages like a fine wine. Well, fine wines can actually get past their age of maturity. Turns out they can sour and become vinegar given enough time. So you need to learn to time them well, not just let them sit. And then on the finance side, again, do we have a finance habit? Are you looking at your KPIs? Do you even have them? Do you even have basic metrics? Bo, if I could get every firm owner that I worked with to just set 3 simple metrics and to live by them the same way that, how much can I squat, deadlift, bench press, how much do I weigh, and what's my body fat percentage are easy little metrics that I can have in my mile time. That gives me a sense of where I'm at fitness-wise, how well I'm taking care of myself. If I get them to measure the number of clients that they sign each month, the number of qualified leads that they've received each month, how long files live on their desk, and how many files they've cleared in the last month, everyone would be happier for it. Truly. Just little habits like that.
I love it. So in terms of, those are great fundamentals. So you touched on marketing fundamentals, operations fundamentals, finance fundamentals.
That's my little triangle that I like to coach from: marketing, operations, finance.
What separates the firms that scale successfully from those that are struggling to grow in the context of those fundamentals?
Great question. So the difference between struggling and growth really comes down to, at least for me, and I believe that other people would obviously give different answers, and that's kind of the importance of all this. I believe fundamentally it's identity. It's how much do you see yourself as the chief entrepreneur in your firm versus how much do you see the business side as a necessary evil to support your life as a lawyer who happens to own a law firm. If I can get you towards that entrepreneur side, if I can get you to embrace that, that's going to get you the real growth, because you're going to be so excited about that. And you'll also be fine with saying, you know what, I'm going to go and hire an associate because I know there are great attorneys who would love to work in my firm. I would love to give them all of my files to free me up to bring in the next round of files, to hire someone, and keep repeating that cycle over and over again.
What I take from that answer is it's almost mindset shift, right? Like the owner, operator of the firm needs to make that mindset shift first, because just floating by versus growing, that requires a much different mental constitution. If you're going to grow, you have to be ready to endure a lot of pain, anxiety, making a lot of mistakes. And that's tough. It's easy to, if your firm's kind of doing okay, it's easy to fall into the trap of things are going well, I'm going to hit a beach and relax and not kind of push it forward over the next couple of years. And then you wake up and it's like, oh gosh, what happened to my market share? What happened to this, practice area that I was a market leader in and now 5 steps behind? So is it fair to say that it's mindset is a big fundamental differentiator between firms that are just getting by and ones that are growing?
Yeah, absolutely. That mindset shift is everything. And that whole staying in neutral, there's this concept, the Red Queen hypothesis, which I learned from my buddy Dave Freeze, who's an estate planner and a great coach in his own right. And the Red Queen hypothesis, if you imagine that there's a herd of, or a group of wolves and a herd of deer that are living near each other, what happens is the fast wolves will quickly kill off the slow deer. In the process of that, because only the fast deer survive, they will continue to get faster and faster and faster as they propagate. And now all the slow wolves start to die off. So now we only get faster and faster wolves, and the cycle repeats itself. It's a way of expressing the idea that there's no such thing as being in neutral. You are either growing in order to stay in the same place, or you are shrinking, and maybe you're shrinking, you don't realize it yet. And that's the scariest one. That's why we want to get them addicted to the idea of being an entrepreneur and having fun with that. And it might be challenging yourself. How much revenue can I bring in? It might be challenging yourself as an entrepreneur. How can I have a 20-hour work week instead of a 40-hour work week? But implementing those different challenges, that will help make your practice better.
So we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier about how technology has caused firms to ignore some of the fundamentals. And with that analogy you just gave, I couldn't help but think about like building a culture and people management, because that is such a important part of running a successful firm is the culture you set, how you hold people accountable, what work behaviors you reward, what work behaviors you look down upon, frown upon, however you want to say that. How much are you talking with firms about like personnel management? Is that a big area that you see firms struggle with?
Yeah. And some of the components there are also that identity issue. They don't see themselves as a leader of people quite yet. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, Bo, one of the things that scares me the most is working with a firm that has 5 or 6 people, maybe even 4 people in it. And the firm owner says, I am an excellent leader. I'm like, ooh, I think that we're going to have some issues here. This sense of overbelief at this point really frightens me, because what it usually means is they haven't had to do all the hard stuff as a leader yet. And let me place myself on the over the fire here and say, I've had to deal with this as well. I'm like the human embodiment of a golden retriever, basically. I'm happy. I'm energetic. I just want to play. Like, let's have fun with all of this. But there are times where you have to have tough discussions, right? So we talk about culture, and I love culture. But what I don't like about culture as a buzzword is the implication that culture has to be happiness. Why can't culture be about performance? It's because when people talk about like the culture at a hedge fund, when they use the word culture, they're using it as a pejorative. When they say culture about, and it was more popular probably 7-8 years ago, like a Silicon Valley startup, that meant ping pong tables and happy people and cereal bars and all that stuff. So people try and say like, are you building a good culture? And they're loading that word with this, Bo, do you have a cereal bar? Do you let people do yoga? Are we all just smiles all day? And the reality is culture isn't supposed to be that. Culture is supposed to be what is endemic at first to you, the owner, and the tone that you set and what you want from your people. And if you don't like your culture, it's because there's something about yourself that you don't like. And you have to deal with that. If you don't like that your culture has gotten backstabby, I would say, what are you doing to facilitate that? Because there's also this idea of not only what are you doing to facilitate it, like how are you participating in this potentially and encouraging this type of behavior? But there's another great quote. I don't have the attribution for it, but the quote goes, what you tolerate is what you will get. So if you let people get away with it, that's your culture, it turns out. You're letting that be your overriding culture. And the more you let that become an issue, the harder it is to, the only way to shift culture is really to turn over a couple of people at least, if not, say, 50% of your people. Well, you, the owner, make a deliberate effort to be a better person to achieve the culture that you want to see there. And that culture can be encouraging while also holding people accountable. And it's going to feel uncomfortable for a while as a leader. I would bet, Bo, that you had to deal with this at times with growing Pareto Legal.
Absolutely. You don't learn this stuff in school. No one knows inherently how to be a leader or run a business. You have to learn this through trial and error. You have to find ways to educate yourself and just be an overall better person, communicator, manager, so on and so forth. And it's still something I struggle with. Like, it's still something I need to prioritize and make a concerted effort to improve upon. But I love your answer because it ties perfectly with the one you had earlier about it starts with mindset shift, but then that needs to be corresponded with behavior change and action.
Oh yeah.
So you can't just say in your mind, well, I'm an entrepreneur now, I'm a business owner, and then just expect like things to fall into place. No, you have to have the mindset shift, and then you have to start being the change that you want to see and set that example for the rest of your team. And, you know, as a leader, so much of your job is just clarifying what matters, clarifying what the end goal is, being really clear with your team about these are good outcomes. These are how we get to those outcomes. These are things that we don't tolerate here. Like using your, you know, what you tolerate, you become is the truth. So being really clear about that, I almost think of like culture is like the operating system. You know what I mean? It's not like, going back to what you said, it's not, you know, ping pong. It's not cooler talk. It's not we have a team outing every 3 months. It's really, this is how we show up to work. This is how we support each other. This is how we reward progress. This is how we handle issues within the firm. But yeah, man, it's the hardest part about running a business is managing the leading the people and managing them and those are two different skills.
Oh, agreed. I'm so glad that you point that out. And let's touch on leadership and management here in just a second. I want to tell kind of a fun story here. So last night I was at my 10-year-old's basketball practice, and this is a league that combines a year younger than she is and her age group, so 9 and 10-year-olds. And I'm not coaching the team, so I'm there just to observe. I've been told that practices can be a little bit chaotic. Well-meaning coach and an assistant coach who he volunteered. I was going to volunteer. He volunteered ahead of me. Great. Awesome. We're there, and 3.5 minutes into the practice, one of the girls decides she's going to screech. Like, I'm talking like I won't do it on a microphone level screech that can be heard through the whole gym. And there are 2 separate teams practicing in the gym. And other kids start screeching. Other kids start piling on and shouting names and getting chaotic and pushing and shoving. And they're just going absolutely nuts. Like if you were to go in and see just a bunch of puppies that are yelping at each other and wrestling with each other, that's basically what the scene looks like. I'm talking about girls are literally on the floor wrestling each other. And as someone who, I would never say like I'm a profoundly great leader or anything like that, but as someone who appreciates boundaries and believes in strength and leadership, I felt my blood start to boil. And it just kept going and going. And I'm texting my wife throughout this practice. And I'm like, I don't think I could deal with this. I could see my 10-year-old daughter, Veronica, and she's shooting me looks like she can't stand it. She can't stand it at all. And I love competition. Like, I believe that you play to win, knowing that at times you will lose, but you always show up with the intention to win, to get better, etc. And this is driving me crazy. So finally, 10 minutes before practice, I went over to the assistant coach. I said, do you want help corralling these girls? And he goes, yeah, that would be good. I was like, cool. I was a summer camp counselor, like a theater camp counselor. I'll help out. So I went over to the head coach. I was like, do you want any help corralling the girls? Because, got to get permission of the head coach too. He's like, yeah, sure, if you want to give it a shot. 30 seconds, they're in line. They're in line. They're listening to the coach. All that they needed was someone to go, Ashley, we're not going to scream anymore. Suddenly everyone starts to fall in line. I also then later go over to Ashley because they're rotating kids out. To Ashley, hey, you're really good at stealing the ball. But you know that to steal the ball, you actually have to be in front of them. You know you're going to get a penalty called if you do the hug maneuver where you come in from behind in basketball. It's like, that's going to cost the team, right? I'm guessing you don't want to do that. She's like, no. I think you're really quick. I think you're going to be great at stealing the ball. But I want you to focus on just coming in from the front when it's your opportunity. Also, you may not know this, Ashley, but you're kind of a tone setter. Anytime that you start carrying on and you're screaming, the other girls join in and the whole thing loses focus. And I bet that if you don't do that, everyone's going to focus and really dial in before Saturday's game. And she seemed to really appreciate that bit of attention. She went back out there, no more screeching, totally focused on the game. Everyone else cooled down as well and kept focus on practice and listened to the head coach. Doesn't take a lot. What it required was some people are afraid that the other parents are going to be like, don't you talk to my kid that way. And I don't care. You can tell me that because I know that I'm doing what is right for the kids. And we may disagree on that, but I genuinely believe it's the right thing for the kids. And that's where I stepped in.
Not only right for the kids, but right for the team, right? Because Going back to what you said, it's like the goal ultimately is to win, right? Yep. And so this all kind of stays on topic. I see not only law firms, but businesses in general use the family analogy. Like, we're a family. It's like, no, we're a sports team. we're a sports team. Every position here has a, specific function. Everyone's replaceable. I don't care who you are. You could be the best, think you're the best in the world. There's someone out there that's probably better than you. Mm-hmm. And so maintaining that humility is important. But yeah, it's leadership is setting the tone for the team almost. Yeah. And then management almost is more the one-to-one individual coaching, if you will. Yeah. Is that a good, do you agree with that?
Yeah, there's a great book, First Break All the Rules, that I think is that is my canonical book on learning management, not leadership, but management. And the way that they put it is like leadership is very outward focused. It's very what's ahead of us, setting the general tone, overall culture, et cetera. Management is reflected inside. Yes, exactly what you're talking about, Bo, where it's, hey, we're going to sit down, we're going to have our one-on-one. We're also going to check in about KPIs. And as a manager, I'm also going to ask, how can we support you to better do this? And as a manager, I'm going to be an advocate inside of the organization. If as a leader, I'm advocating for the organization to the wider world, as a manager, I'm advocating for what's happening inside the organization to prioritize resources, et cetera, to have a great team. And that book, First Break All the Rules, truly a hidden gem. Highly recommend it to folks.
Yeah, I think of it leadership is more like future state. Management is more like present and past state, where it's like, it's part, hey, we're working through this right now. Here's some feedback on A, B, and C. Or, hey, this outcome happened. Let me coach you on how to approach it next time. Whereas leadership is where we're heading. It's clarifying what the vision for the firm is, why it's our vision, why we do what we do. And the benefit is for like a lot of law firms, that vision is meaningful if you do it right, because it is a business that is oriented towards helping people in a serious way. I mean, there's thousands, maybe millions of businesses out there that, it's the benefit to society is not that clear. But if you're a personal injury firm and you're helping folks that have just undergone, a very tragic situation and you're helping them rebuild their lives, like that is a really compelling thing to be talking about with your staff and say, look, our whole mission is oriented around helping people that are being discarded, taken advantage of, so on and so forth. So I feel like the vision stuff and the motivating leadership for law firms, specific law firm, like corporate law is probably a little different. But like if you're a personal injury or a workers' comp or social security disability or like all these plaintiff-based law firms, you can really build a vision and a culture that's oriented around helping people. And that is awesome. And people can get behind that. Might be a different story if you're like, Mark Zuckerberg. How do you when there's all these terrible studies about social media? Anyway, it's different for lawyers, I think.
I actually emphasize that. So I have the coaching company and a company called Red Kraken Creative that does weekly email newsletters for law firms. And I was talking with our group of writers recently. I said, look, one thing that you have to know is that to play in the general, like Charlie owns this business universe, is we love lawyers and we love them unabashedly because of the work that they do for their clients and because of the people that they are. And one thing we will never tolerate is the offhanded, casual, even just generally apathetic, because these lawyers, right? They're just being such lawyers. Like that's a non-starter. If I hear that, there's going to be a quick warning about it. You get one strike on that. Second strike, you're going to have to go play somewhere else because I know that I'm not fixing that culturally with that individual. And I want everyone to be bought in with how cool is it that we get to support this greater mission of these law firms that are doing great work in their communities, advocating for clients, creating local jobs, providing community support, because a lot of them sponsor sports teams or get involved in charitable causes. Like, cool, we get to support that. And we're really supporting the people who are doing that at the highest level and trying to create a great culture in the process for the community, for their employees. And, to the culture idea, I realized one thing I was thinking of earlier, Bo, is really great culture doesn't just change how people operate at work, it changes how they operate at home as well. Like if I'm changing how someone sees the world, then we've really created a cool, sticky culture.
I want to shift it though. I'm glad we talked a lot about leadership and management. I want to shift it a little bit to marketing, obviously being a marketing agency owner. What are some of the biggest mistakes you're seeing firms make in regards to their marketing these days?
I call it the accordion effect. It's where it's inconsistent. They do a bunch of marketing, reap the rewards, and then watch that shrink back. And then all of a sudden they're scuttling back to reinvest in that marketing, see the rewards. It creates a vicious cycle. So I think that's a significant mistake. I think also taking a mono-media approach to marketing and thinking that if I just do this one thing, my problems will be solved. Like, I'm only going to have LSAs running for me, and I'm not going to invest in SEO. I'm not going to invest in referral relationships. I'm not going to press publish on 1, 2, or 3 online platforms because I've been told all I need are LSAs and life will be good. And then they keep getting stuck, and the LSAs work fine for a while, maybe even really well, but then there's a little bit of a downturn and these things happen and they go, oh, well, I guess LSAs don't work anymore. And they go running over to the person who's like, well, I do Facebook retargeting. Okay, I'm going to invest a ton in Facebook retargeting. And that maybe does fine for them, depends on the practice area, all that stuff. And then that winds its way down. And they didn't realize that along the way, if they had kept with the LSAs and added Facebook retargeting, and they were doing outreach to the referral sources, they'd have this compounding marketing stack that would bring in a lot more clients and build up the firm over time. So that drives me crazy on the marketing front.
So it seems like then the solution to that is there's a few things there. It's taking a longer term view in regards to their marketing. There needs to be some cohesion. There needs to be some, binding, clarifying idea of like what it is we're doing. And here's the kind of the different menu of tactics that we have going, and we're testing and we're learning. The other thing with that too is there needs to be an ongoing investment with the marketing as well. And I know there's all these people to have different opinions, and there's benchmarks, and it's like, 5 to 10% of a gross revenue should be going to marketing. Like, how are you helping firms determine how much to invest in marketing? And I think not to make this a long-winded question, but you talked earlier about like 4 or 5 KPIs that they need to be measuring all the time. I agree with the ones that you mentioned. It seems like you have to have that as a baseline, and then you have to have an idea of like, where am I going next? And then the delta is where action needs to happen. Something needs to be introduced into the marketing portfolio, or a budget needs to be increased, or something like that. So I might have just answered the question I just asked for you, but like, if a firm is approaching you and saying, what do I invest in marketing? How are you helping them figure that out?
So if we're evaluating it, one, I'm interested obviously in what's their current revenue level, what are they currently doing, what are the gaps that we're going to fill. So I do percentage wise, I'm initially going to look at, are we spending roughly 10 to 15% in advertising overall in sort of direct attempts to acquire clients? And that range for me really goes from about 7 to 22% of revenue in the range of firms. Some of them just referrals are really, really strong, so they don't spend a lot of money. They spend time instead. Some of them are like, no, I just want to be hammering out marketing and build a firm that's just designed almost as like a direct to consumer, like Casper Mattresses type of firm. Not comparing anyone to a mattress shop, but what those companies, these direct to consumer companies, do really well is they cycle marketing dollars into purchases. And that's what their focus is how quickly can they cycle their dollar back out into marketing. So we look at that, and then I'm going to evaluate where the gaps are. Do you have an active referral acquisition and nurture strategy? Are we engaged in a very strong, and I'm focusing a lot on what they can initially do for themselves if they're not currently doing it. And then for all the other stuff, who should you be working with, right? Who's an agency like a Pareto Legal that you should be working with to help level it all up? Because at some point you're going to unlock in your budget and go, based on our projections for next year, I have extra $5,000 per month available to me that can go into marketing. Okay, let's go find a great partner to spend it with. And in the meantime, you continue your referral efforts. You put in high effort on your local search by acquiring great reviews and making sure that your Google business profile is filled out properly. Consistent stream of reviews, right? Make sure you're always asking for those. Can never have too many. And then are you pressing publish on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube? Those are my top 3 that I like for them. I personally think, and even in my experience, personal Facebook might be a hidden gem social media resource for a lot of firm owners, especially if they're someone who's like a hometown lawyer. Your old high school contacts could pay massive dividends if you just went and posted on Facebook. Those are the people who might own the other local businesses as well, who could be your massive referral sources, like personal Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Those are my 3 major ones. So we're going to check for all those because all of those are deeply within the control of the law firm owner to improve. And then for the ones who are a little bit smaller and they're trying to DIY a little bit of SEO, for example, I'm going to have them focus on their top, what I just call the top level pages, which is homepage, and then anything that they can get to with a single click from the homepage, which should be practice area pages, about us, team, etc., just to make sure that we're not completely butchering. I mean, I'm sure you have all the horror stories in the world. I've seen them as well. The most common one is I go to someone's website and the title tag for the homepage is just home, and I want to die inside just a little bit. But it happens. And that's where I go, you spent about $1,500 on getting your website launched, didn't you? We need to find a better digital marketing partner for you. And that's where we want to bring in outside help as well.
Awesome. Charley, thank you so much for doing this today. This was a great discussion. We touched on so many awesome things. How can our listeners learn more about you and your businesses?
Absolutely. So if they go to the 2 companies, our Law Firm Alchemy, it's lawfirmalchemy.com. That's the coaching organization. We have a free referral playbook that you should absolutely go and grab. It is a soup to nuts. You'll be able to get more referrals by following along with the playbook resource. We also have a company, Red Kraken Creative, like the mythical creature, the giant squid, Red Kraken Creative. And that's redkrakencreative.com. And that does weekly email newsletters for law firms. So you don't have to worry about the writing, the uploading, the monitoring of it. We take care of all of that for them. And then, of course, right around the time that this episode's coming out, or maybe slightly before, you can hop over to the podcast. They don't teach this in law school, and go check out Bo's episode over there so you can get a double dose of this fun. So that's the podcast that I have.
And we're going to go record that right after this. I'm going to go grab some coffee and we're going to hit record on that one. Charley, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode of the Pareto Legal Podcast. We will see you next time on another episode.